Absolutely, white parents are teaching their white children to hate black and indigenous and people of color. There is a reason that the largest domestic terrorist threat that the United States continues to face is white supremacists. And that's according to the FBI database. My personal experience with this is that I grew up with a father that was incredibly racist. I have a biracial family and I am the second youngest of 8 siblings. When I was younger than 10, my biological father made me beat my black older brother with a mop handle while yelling, "Beat that N-word's ass." At first I refused, but then he started beating my ass. And then my brother told me to just do it. My mother eventually remarried after my biological father died. This man was a Democrat and a decent enough guy, but he loved to use the N-word. He would say, "I'm not your N-word." He would say, "They're acting like N-words." Until one day when my younger sister, who is black, broke out into tears telling him that she wasn't okay with it. So what I've come to figure out is that if a white parent is not actively anti-racist, they will teach their children to hate black and indigenous and people of color, whether or not it's intentional.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another reaction video. My good name is Saleni, and if it's your first time coming across my page, or if it's your first time coming across my video, kindly remember to push the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also remember to share it because you really don't want to miss whatever we post on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. So kindly take this opportunity to press the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also remember to share it. So folks, today we have a really interesting topic, or rather a really interesting reaction to make, yeah? And whatever that is happening outside here is really something that most of us really predicted, or rather we knew it was happening. But for many years, they didn't really accept when we told them this, yeah? And finally, we are seeing the truth is coming out. We are seeing the white folks are right now confessing to the mistake that was made initially by their parents, or rather, the mistake that was self-inflicted amongst them, yeah? And they, for many years, didn't want to say the truth. But right now, finally, we have seen a couple of them trying to confess, yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into this video, I would like you to remember to push the subscribe button and kindly pay attention to the videos that I'm going to play for you today, because it is revealing so many years of lies, yeah? So many years of denial, so many years of being treated the way we were treated by the white folks. Finally, we have some people who are accountable for the mistake that happened within them, yeah? And these folks is the confession of how racism is so rampant amongst the white folks. So ladies and gentlemen, kindly pay attention to these videos that I'm going to play for you today as I come back at the end with my commentaries.
I hate being lied to. It does more than bother me. It pisses me off. Now, it's hard for me to say anything bad about my dad because he was my safe person when I was a kid. But he did a thing. He had a practice of hiding things from me because he was afraid Kelly might get hysterical. That's the word he used. Kelly might have an opinion. Kelly might feel an emotion that makes me uncomfortable. White people, a lot of us grew up the same way when it comes to race. Maybe that's one of the reasons that I decided to pour my life into this. We learned about heroes and victories, but not the damage they did. We learned that black people lived over there and we lived over here just because that's where everybody wanted to live. I never learned about redlining and appraisal discrimination. And I lived during separate but equal times, and I had no idea there was a legal reason the black people in my town lived way on the other side. We learned, we white folks, that racial inequality was mostly a problem that happened in the past. Now, I was living in it. Now, today, White people are taught that racial inequality is a problem of the past, the distant past, not something that's still shaping opportunities today and getting worse. We learned that if Black communities were struggling, it was probably because they made bad choices rather than generations of policy decisions by white governing bodies. We learned that being a good person meant not being racist. We learned it in words, and that was supposed to be the end of the conversation. Sometimes they sat us down in a classroom or around the dinner table and told us lies. Sometimes they didn't even know they were lies. And sometimes, and this was a large part of my history, was that they left things out. They didn't tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They only told me what would make me comfortable in their opinion. They left out context. They left out history. They left out the parts that might make somebody itchy. I am not interested in being protected from reality. In every case, when I could learn the truth, I could learn how to deal with it. I want the truth, and I want the truth for you too. Even when it challenges us, especially when it challenges us, because that's when we learn, and that's when we become better people, and that's when we can participate in beneficial change. The job I have chosen for the rest of my life is simple. Find out what's true and tell everybody. What's your role? Get curious.
So racism is a taught behavior. It is a learned behavior. We learn it from our parents learn it from their parents, and their parents learn it from their parents. My pawpaw's parents taught his dad how to be racist, and he taught his son, my pawpaw, how to be racist. And my pawpaw taught my dad how to be racist, and then my dad taught us how to be racist. It is generational. It's generational. It takes someone to stand up and say, I'm not fucking doing this. My daughter's not, my children aren't going to be raised this way. In fact, if you are going to continue to think this way and you can't fix your brain development, then we won't have a relationship anymore. Okay? Racism isn't just something that people come up with. It is a taught behavior. Unless you are taught racism, unless you are taught to be racist, you're not going to just come out racist. That's not how it works. It's literally taught behavior. Taught behavior.
Hey, good morning. So this video is for the white people. If you are white, step on forward. If you are one of the so-called Black Indigenous people and you want to stick around, you're welcome. And so let's get right to it. In the words of one of my favorite creators and friend.
All right, racist.
Okay, listen up. Racism is a white problem. More specifically, it's a white man problem. White men created racism. They built the system, they wrote the laws. White men decided who had power, got protected, and got punished. And white women, you don't get a pass, because those white men, they didn't raise themselves. Racism is taught, it's not innate. It's passed down generation after generation. It's a learned behavior. It gets handed to children at the dinner table, reinforced in church, normalized in school, and then it gets protected through your silence. Racism is still very active today. It's active in the fact that employers may not even give an interview to a person of color because their name sounds too Black. Yes, it actually does happen. Companies screen resumes by names, not skill or experience, name. It's not coincidence, it's racism. It shows up in who gets approved for housing, who gets loans, who gets pushed into certain neighborhoods and stuck there. That didn't happen by accident either. It came from redlining laws that white men wrote, where the federal government literally drew red lines around Black neighborhoods and denied home loans, home ownership, and investment, locking generations out of wealth. Mass incarceration, it shows up there too. Black people are arrested more, charged more, sentenced longer for the same behaviors and crimes that white men are. This didn't happen by accident. It's racism. It was designed through policies like the war on drugs, mandatory minimum sentencing, the 3 strikes law, and sentencing disparities where the same crime means more time if your skin is black. Policing didn't evolve to protect black communities. It evolved to control them. Racism shows up when police interact with people differently based on their skin color. A white person and a black person can get pulled over for the exact same thing. The white person can be armed, but still gets treated with respect, calm, fair, while the black person can be unarmed and can still end up in a body bag. That's not about behavior or it's racism. Racism trains people, including police, to see black bodies as threats and white bodies as human. And let's talk about generational trauma. That's what happens when racism gets passed down generation after generation. Put yourself in a black person's shoes for 1 second. But first, let me say this to you. If you were ever one of those people that said, racism, that was so long ago, just get over it. Stop doing that. Trauma doesn't work like that. Their ancestors lived through slavery and genocide, lynchings, forced separation, mass incarceration, stolen land, state violence, reclassification. Trauma didn't disappear. It got passed down biologically, psychologically, culturally. When their grandparents lived in survival mode their entire lives, their parents inherited that fear of hypervigilance and stress, and then it got passed to them. You don't get over trauma when the same systems that's caused it are still operating today. You can't tell people to move on while police are still killing them, courts are still locking them up, and institutions are still treating them as disposable. That's not healing, it's denial. It's racism, and it doesn't just harm black people. It deforms the morality of the people who uphold it. So now let me talk to you Christian people, because y'all hold on to that Christianity like you're immune to racism, but you're not, because you cannot claim God if you defend a system built on dehumanizing people. Men passed white miscegenation laws that made interracial relationships illegal. White women were legally required to marry white men. That's not love or faith. That was a law. Jesus didn't teach racial hierarchy. God didn't create people to dominate one another. If your Christianity makes room for racism, you're not following Christ. You're following one of the few white cultures that white people have. But there's a solution. And the solution is not pretending that racism is over or doesn't exist. The solution is accountability and responsibility. Unlearn what you were taught. Confront your family and friends. Call it out at work and at church. Call it out when it's easier to ignore it. Racism was created by white men, sustained by white culture, and it will only end when white people take responsibility for dismantling it. That's not hate, it's truth. And the truth is the first step towards justice.
We are all racist. Every single one of us who look like me, who are watching this video, we are racist. And let me explain what I mean by that, because if you would have told me that a few years ago, I would have come out of my corner swinging saying, no way, I am not. I have worked in the criminal justice system for decades, and I've seen the systemic racism there and fought against it. I have biracial children, and I have seen the way the world looks at my children who are of a minority race versus my children who look like me. And I would have said, no way. But here is the thing. The more I learn, the more I realize just how much I don't know. Because there are 2 types of racism. There's the kind of racism that comes from the hate in your heart, and I don't have that. I never have, and I suspect very many of you don't have it either. But there is another kind of racism that comes from ignorance, and that abounds in my life. Even me, who thought that I knew a lot about seeing systemic racism. But here's what I've learned. The more I learn, the more I realize how unintentionally racist I have been in so many things. And it is on us now, white people, to educate ourselves. We're never going to fully grasp what it means to live in a world where you are the minority and where the system has been set up for hundreds and hundreds of years to benefit people who look like me and to oppress people who look like my children. But we have got to educate ourselves. I'm going to start listing several books and documentaries that I've been watching to educate myself. And I hope any of you who really want this world to be a better place, we have got to start with the foundation that all men and women are created equal. And we have got to set new rules for how we move in this society if we're going to have that. I need to apologize to the friends, the clients, the people I interacted with for so many years, because I thought I wasn't racist, and I'm not, as far as the part that comes out of hate. But the part that is born from ignorance, I'm sorry. I should have done better, and I am learning. For those of you who are watching this who are minorities, please put your advice in the comments. Books, documentaries, movies, or just your life experiences. I want to learn, and I want to help others learn, because I don't want you or your children or my children to live in a world that is designed to fail them. Okay, so let's start this series of educating ourselves in order to make this world a better place. Go love your neighbor.
So I used to teach psychology, and I used to have to teach prejudice and discrimination to a group of students who were all white, because I was teaching in the south of England at the time. That's how it was. And I got the feeling that they thought these were things that happened to other people, and they couldn't really relate to it personally. So I invented this little exercise where each of them had to attach a sticker to their forehead and wear it for 24 hours. And what they discovered was that as soon as you stand out, as soon as you are visibly different from the majority of people, they will insult you, they will treat you differently, they will stare at you, they will laugh at you. And this is what they learned, that it wasn't just about, being part of a minority or being disabled, it was just about being different in any way. So you might object and say that, look, you actually asked for a true racist to tell you why they are racist. And I can tell you that is a waste of time, because everybody's the good guy in their own story. So if you ask a racist, they will come up with a bunch of bullshit, which basically says, because people are taking jobs, or this or that, the other, or kind of don't respect our values, all kinds of things, which just help them to justify the way that they are. But you won't get the real answer, which is that at heart, basically, people instinctively dislike people who are different to them.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. Racism is a learned behavior. So I just came from a birthday party. One of my best investor clients happens to be a Caucasian man. We've been working together for I'm going to say maybe 5 or 6 years, something like that. He found me online, and I helped him sell his first home. We developed a relationship because he wanted to get into flipping, and I be finding the off-market deals all the time. You know what I mean? But anyway, his little boy turned 1 year old. He even invited me and my husband to his baby's the baby shower. Fast forward to today, he's 1. We were invited to his first birthday party. Of course, we went because he's the cutest little thing. I mean, he is so adorable, so adorable. But the whole purpose of this post is this. This little baby, which I, of course, will not name his name, he comes right to me. He'll pull on my hair, he'll pull on my jewelry. He comes right to me with no problem at all. He does all the things that a little baby does to people that he feels safe around. Because of course he knows his parents aren't going to let people around that aren't safe. But he does all the things, pulling on the jewelry, pulling the hair, doing all the baby things. He does not know that I am a black woman. I know his father and his mother, and he will never be taught to be scared of black people or to do the things that racists do because his parents aren't racist. And with all of the racist things going on in the world, especially in the United States, I thought it prudent to remind you all that, again, racism is a learned behavior.
Helen Keller was a raging racist because her interpreter was a raging racist.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The lady who dropped that little bit of information on you, she's absolutely right. I know she blew your mind. And then I went in your comments and I saw it was so many people like, no, how could that be? Okay. I'm gonna give you a little bit of proof on it. But listen to me. The little bit of proof that I have directly, like with something that I could show you in your face, does come from a comedy skit. However, this happens all the time. Please keep in mind that racism is taught and learned. It's not something that just comes up out of you, okay? Hatred is not in us. It's put in us, right? So here's my explanation. I don't know how many people watch them, but Dave Chappelle, a long time ago, did a skit where he was in a KKK clan, right? But get this, he's a black man who is blind and in the KKK clan. And now I know you're sitting there like, how was he a black man and he blind in the KKK clan? KKK don't like black people. That don't make no sense. Well, in the skit, he had white friends and family members who were racist as hell and a part of the KKK. They taught that hatred to him. And because he was blind, he had no idea that he was a black man. You see what I'm saying? He didn't find out that he was actually a black man until one day he ripped off his hood and just started spewing mess. And then it was like, but he black. What is happening? So now you just pause right there and it's like, well, yeah, he's black and he hates black people. He's a part of us. It has to be something wrong with them. And at first, Dave Chappelle was like, I'm black? Wait a minute. Hold on. What's happening? What's happening? What? He had no idea because he was blind. If you can't see what the hell is going on around you, you only got somebody to tell you what the hell is going on. And from their interpretation is exactly how you finna view the world. Now, let's go to Helen Keller. This woman was blind and deaf and couldn't talk. So how in the hell was she supposed to even know that black people was bad? She couldn't have been a racist. She ain't have no sensory for her to be a damn racist. It was instilled in her by her interpreters. And
when white people see my posts about racism in America, frequently they say, I didn't know. When black people see these comments, they say, we already know. There is no way you didn't know. Don't pretend you didn't. This disconnect is really hard to explain, and I've been trying to understand it myself. I'm going to be digging into this really deep because I think it's so important. It's not that we're just oblivious white people. It's that we've been groomed to be oblivious white people. People point out that it's not like this stuff is locked in some vault somewhere. It's available. You can see it. And that's true. But we were trained not to ask questions. We were trained not to look for it. And I see it in my family. I see it in my circle of friends, even some of my friends that are pretty progressive. We have this ingrained training to not ask too many questions. We were taught to trust authority figures, teachers, ministers, police officers, politicians, the anchor guy on the evening news. We believed them because we were groomed from childhood to believe that they were trustworthy. We were not taught that the system itself, the system they were part of, was designed to protect itself first. And frankly, it felt good just to trust them. It's like you had this permanent mommy and daddy figure. It made life feel safe. The gaps in white knowledge were filled in with lies. We were told that poor people were lazy, that's why they're poor. That crime existed in black neighborhoods because they were black neighborhoods. That broken families cause poverty. These ideas were not questioned. They were treated as common sense. And we were started with our grooming as infants, as little tiny babies, as little bitty kids that are impressionable and just forming our ideas about the world. So that was our social foundation. We were told that black people can't keep their marriages together. I was even told that the reason they couldn't keep their marriages together was because of how they were treated during slavery. So out of one side of their mouth, they'd say, wasn't that horrible that families were split up during slavery? But now that has just become part of who they are. And so it's their fault. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me either. We also were not told that welfare benefits were not available if there was a man in the house, a black woman working 2 jobs who still needed support to raise her children, could not have a husband or partner living in the house with her. And of course we were taught that that was their fault because they couldn't keep their marriages together. As we were growing up and we started to repeat these beliefs, we were seen as respectful and well-adjusted. I don't know, are you getting pissed off? I'm getting pissed off just going through this again. We were guided by the TV news and movies and TV shows to care when white people suffered and to disconnect from the pain of other people. We were taught to feel patriotic about our country without questioning whether they were being truthful with us about why we should feel such patriotism. When we asked those white authority figures that we were taught to trust, we were lied to. Now, when black people give us honest answers, we don't fully trust them. It's not about ignorance, it's about conditioning. My education is in behavior analysis, and that's how that works. You just expose someone to a social system that supports a certain line of thinking, and you fall for it, especially if you are started out as a young kid being taught all that stuff. And that's what happens to all of us. We were taught that silence is polite and that truth about society is rude or inappropriate. And as a girl that went to a fundamentalist Christian church, that was even more so. You don't ask questions that are going to make people uncomfortable. But that comfort, you see, it kept us obedient. It kept us from asking too many questions. It kept us from wanting to do anything about it because we didn't fully understand that there was something that needed to be done. We were used to preserve a system that depended on our own silence. It kept us from befriending black people. It kept us from knowing what the hell we thought we knew about those people. So when white people say, I didn't know about any of this, understand what that really means. We were trained not to look. We were trained to believe the stories that we were told by the authority figures. We were shaped by a system that used your trust against you. We were trained to look away. And now we have a choice. White people, we need to get angry about being kept in the dark all these years so that together with our black neighbors and neighbors of all races, we can break down this oppressive system that has brought us here to the point of fascism. Check the caption for some documentaries to help you get started learning.
So folks, the reason as to why the compilation of today is so crazy or pretty interesting is because we don't have people who are making accusations right now. Finally, we don't have people who are making accusations. We have white people themselves, sharing their own experiences and saying that racism is something that they were born with. For many years, they've been saying that racism is something that they were born with, yeah? It's just natural for them. But unfortunately, we are now realizing that this is something that has been learned. This is something that they have been teaching themselves from their childhood. They have been teaching themselves how to be racist. But at this moment, we have white folks who are really confessing the truth, and according to them, it's something that can be learned through family, environment, and culture where people grow up around. Also in schools, unfortunately. So this revealance is something that is really shocking because we were not expecting folks to come out saying the truth. I want you to realize the pattern that is there in the videos. Many are saying that it's from the parents, the grandparents, the teachers, schools. Yeah, the pattern is just the same. Yeah. So after this, what do we realize? That racism is something that is taught, definitely. This is something that they have practiced. Yeah. When a lie spreads, it definitely spreads. Yeah. And for your life, when a lie spreads from the old age, it's going to definitely spread throughout the lineage. Yeah. From your parents to the kids, or rather from the grandparents to the parents and to the kids. So it's going to be a cycle of the same. Yeah. People dismissing the black community, always dismissing the black community. Yeah. One thing that stands out, many people are now accepting the truth that it is something they learned when they were growing up rather than something they were born with. Yeah, they talk about family influences, yeah, their surroundings, and also the messages they absorbed when they were kids. We've seen videos of a white person saying that the parent even had to dismiss a friend in a birthday just because the friend of the white kid was black. The parent told the kid that he doesn't want a black kid in the party just because we look different, yeah? And it's something that is true. Once you perceive different or looking different from the community that is around you, they will definitely treat you differently. Yeah? They will definitely treat you in a manner that is not normal to the others. We've seen this is happening even in the uh, systemic patterns in our systems. Yeah, we are seeing these mistreatments by cops, white cops treating black people as if they are not human, even in hospitals. Yeah, when women are going to give birth, we are seeing that this is something that is happening to them. They are not given good treatment, regardless of the pain that they're receiving during labor. And I want to take this opportunity to really thank the black women for being strong, yeah, and going through whatever this is, because this is something that is not good. Being treated differently just because you have melanin, yeah, being perceived as not human, yeah. When those kinds of beliefs are passed from one generation to the next, yeah, they can shape how people see and how people are going to treat you, yeah, and that can contribute to mistrust, unfair treatment, yeah, stereotypes, discrimination, name them all, because this is something that really needs to be called out. And finally, we have folks who are really saying the truth. Others should learn from this. We should stand against racism and division, because it creates division. Once there's mistrust in a community, there's going to be division, definitely. Yeah. One community wanting to do this and another one wanting to do that. Yeah. And definitely the people who are perceived different in the community are going to suffer. Yeah. So for many years, we've been suffering, knowing that this is something that has come as a lesson from generations. The lie started back then, at a long time ago during slavery. And right now it's still happening in the modern world. Parents are still teaching their kids to be racist. Yeah, viewing others as different just because they don't look as them. Yeah, this triggers the everyday lives and communities. It triggers a lot because at times even lives are lost. People lose life through this. And what's important here is that these are their own experiences or other reflections. They have not been forced to make these videos. It's their realization that made them to create these videos and pass awareness. Yeah, it's a reminder that attitudes can be shaped by their environment and people will grow through it or rather grow up in it. Yeah, the attitudes that you're getting outside here is something that has been taught. We are seeing the family of the young lady giving us a story through her parents, her 90-year-old parents, the white parents, saying how they managed not to be racist even after growing in a family that is full of racism. So, ladies and gentlemen, what's important here is we need to change this attitude. We need to change this culture of perceiving the black community as if they were not supposed to exist. Just because we are jealous over the real blueprint, we are all one. We should realize that we need to have unity. Yeah, there is no need of diversifying another clan because they look different. So, guys, this is something that we should put as a challenge outside here. Yeah, let them finally realize that we know the truth. We know what really happened, or rather, what is happening. And to those who are still doing this at the age of right now, or rather this year, 2026, is something that is so outdated. Yeah, and shame on all the people who are still carrying these racist beliefs. Yeah, because we need to change that. We need to really change that because it's so harmful. Whether it doesn't affect you or whether you have different opinions on that, it is so not okay, guys. So I'd like to hear from you on the comments. Did anything in this clip surprise you? Do you think that these conversations or these confessions that have been made help explain where the prejudice comes from, or rather where this difference comes from? Let me know in the comments. Let's have this discussion, guys. Do you finally realize that they are waking up to the truth and they are telling us the truth themselves? They are exposing themselves. So folks, if you really enjoyed this reaction video, or rather if you enjoyed this episode, kindly remember to push the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also remember to subscribe to the channel, guys. We are on with the truth, folks. We are all awake with what's really happening around the world. Stay woke and peace.